If the rogue took evasion, that's consent. They know what they signed up for. Welcome to Tabletop Finds, brought to you by the Tabletop Travel Guide.
Yeah.
So this week we're doing spells.
Spells.
For all of your magical needs.
No specific category of spells, just all 4 spell lists looped into one giant bucket.
I think we're going to hit every topic of Tabletop Finds and then dive into more details
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah.
But all spells.
All spells.
It's great.
And Tyler and I already discussed we did not pick one of the same spells.
Yeah.
But they wanted to.
But we wanted to.
We both wanted to.
So, Sam, if you want to go first.
Okay, so I have 3 spells because I couldn't decide what I wanted, but they're all different.
So you can start us and then finish.
Okay.
Because you can go first and then we'll do 2.
Oh, yeah, like the do and then, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That works.
Okay, perfect. I'm glad that being
Or we'll cut it in post. I mean,
extra over-prepared helps.
For our Patreons only, you get the one spell that Sam wanted to talk about.
That's very rude. Okay. So for my first spell, I started with my lowest level 1. So it is a level 1 spell. This is Hydraulic Push.
Ooh.
okay.
It is on the Arcane and the Primal list. It is range of 60 feet. Targets a person or an object.
Okay.
And basically what happens is you throw a big blast of pressurized water at a person or object. They get bludgeoning damage and they get knocked back. I really like this spell because 1, you do damage, and 2, you can like utility use it to move people around the field. Fun times in a campaign, I used it to knock someone off of a cliff. I don't think it was a tall cliff. I think it was maybe 30 feet. We were like in a quarry or something.
Yeah.
Well, you did that, and then in a different campaign, I've used that one to knock people off horses, which Ryan allowed. I wasn't sure if it was fair, but it's a good spell.
Yeah, I really like it for utility and a slow level, so it's easily accessible, and I feel like you can just use it in some really fun ways.
Well, it just feels like that's like when I think of spells that are basically Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that is one of them. Just like, water push.
Yeah, that's a good one. Nice low level. Got some good damage, too, for when you get it.
Just easing us in.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. So my first spell is also kind of a offensive, defensive type spell. So it is level 3. It is called Gravity Well. Gravity Well. It is on the Arcane and Occult Traditions. It is 2 actions. It has a range of 120 feet, and it's a 30-foot radius burst. So what it does is you throw out that burst, and then all creatures and unsecured objects in the area move towards the center of the burst.
It's a black hole.
Yeah. So depending on the reflex saving throws, and it's basically forced movement. So if you succeed, you move 5 feet. If you fail, you move 15. If you crit fail, you move 30 feet. As an offensive thing, it doesn't do any damage, but it kind of can consolidate enemies in case you want to like pull a bunch of people in and then nuke them or something. But the reason I picked this is I have used this in the past as a get your allies out of jail free card too.
Oh, yeah. Pull your friends.
So this is, your mileage may vary based on your GM because there aren't like rules as written rules about auto-failing checks. There are a few spells that let you auto-fail, but like there's no just blanket statement.
Right.
The consensus is most people say like if it's like a reflex save, you can just choose to fail. As intended. So that's how we play. And so that's the reason of this spell being really good as a kind of defensive thing is I have done this in the past where I've like thrown out a gravity well in between like the back line and the front line to pull back our like frontline fighters, and they'll just fail because even if you catch like some enemies in there, if they try to resist it, and they move like 10 or 15 or none at all if they crit succeed.
Mm-hmm.
But then your allies auto crit fail, then like they just get dragged back 30 feet. So you kind of like pull for free, or for 2 actions, you can pull like allies away from danger.
Yeah. Have we ever tried to set up like a grease trap with this or something? Because that feels like, or like an on the floor spell, like put something down and then gravity well them into the thing.
That would be smart battle tactics, Ryan.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We haven't. But yeah, I like those kind of tactical moves you can do fun stuff with.
Utility is good.
Yeah.
You don't realize how important the utility is until you're like, I wish I had a... Oh, crap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, damage is all good until you need something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think mine was kind of similarly themed as yours, Tyler. A little bit different, but a little bit similar. I chose the 3rd level spell Rally Point.
Ooh.
It is on the Arcane and Occult spell lists. It's technically a 3-action cast, but what it lets you do is if you use a single action while you're in combat, as long as you can pass a concentration check, or just like if you're generally want to jump back and you use this single action, you can teleport automatically 120 feet back to your rally point.
Oh, what?
Oh, that's cool.
So you can like no look realize, oh, like bail, and then you hit the button and you like blink back to your rally point.
That would be really amazing I'm running Abomination Vaults right now, and like that's just a big dungeon crawl. And those rooms are not terribly big, so like that would be really cool to like, oh, we want to like see what's down this pit or something, or we want to like go from floor to floor into a room and then be like, okay, I'm gonna scout, then oh no, I hit something big, snap, and then you're just back.
Yeah, it's 120 feet limited,
Yeah.
and you can't bring anyone or anything like extra. You can't like bring extra dimensional things back with you. Like there's lots of restrictions.
Yeah.
You can heighten it and those kind of go away, but yeah, it definitely feels like the scout ahead. Or I think if I was a GM, I would give scrolls of this.
Yeah.
Like this feels like one that I don't think would feel very good carrying around on my spell book as like a daily prepared spell. But if I had a box of 5 scrolls of this, like, ooh,
that'd be
I need
super
a rally
helpful.
point.
I think that's one thing that there are so many cool spells, and some of them are kind of niche. And I feel like that's one thing I feel like we could get better as players and GMs to like provide and have scrolls on hand and actually remember what scrolls we have on hand.
Well, I think it's different. Like this is one that this isn't like a battle cast. Like I always think, oh, like yeah, scroll of fireball, like that's super relevant. But yeah, this is something you can kind of prep beforehand, and it's just ready to go.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Me too. Nice.
Okay.
All right, well, back to me. So for my second spell, I am jumping up to a level 5 spell. This one is a reaction cast because I
Ooh.
wanted to have some variety in those spells I chose. This one is called Drop Dead, which I will explain. So it's on the Arcane and the Divine lists, 120 feet, and targets 1 creature up to a minute. So it is not what you might think. Instead of killing someone, what it does is when you reaction cast it at a target, they appear to fall down dead, but they are actually turned invisible.
Oh, yeah.
So if your backline...
Oh,
and
that's so cool!
Yeah, so your backline, your ally in front gets hit with something, you can reaction cast if they get hit. It looks like they have fallen down dead. They are dead. Anyway, it looks like they have been felled. But they're actually invisible, so the illusory corpse stays there where it fell with a believable fatal wound. Now, the person who's taking hostile actions does get to make a check if there's like some very ridiculous thing, like if your barbarian with like full health like ran up and like got poked and it was like, oh look, I'm dead. So there does have to be some believability in it, but that is up to the GM to grant perception checks if it is super ridiculous.
You only get the reaction if it's like not believable.
Well, yeah, so like
Okay.
your GM would decide.
Yeah,
So
okay.
so how, depending on how you use it,
Yeah.
how I would use it would be, okay, so I have an ally who looks like they're not doing great, but they're too far for me to heal. So I need them to be able to get back to me, but I'm worried about AOs or I'm worried about moving through whatever. So okay, on your next hit, I'm going to cast that spell. It's going to look like you drop dead. You're invisible. Now, either you can reorient to a more advantageous space, or you can move back to be healed
because
to be able
what's
to
the
enter
range on
back
that
in.
one?
It's 120 feet.
Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
That is really cool.
Oh. Or, Sam, could you, or for like 5th level adventurers, this is how you seed a murder
No.
a murder as a GM, where like there are attendants in a manor house and they like cast, what's the spell called?
Drop dead?
So like a wizard who's like off in the corner casts drop dead on the noble to make it look like the noble died. And then the attendants shuffle the body off into the back room and everyone's like, oh my gosh, that noble just died, but the noble's actually fine.
Ooh.
And then they can go do deceptive evil things.
I love the 2 different schools of thought. You have like player brain and GM brain working.
I mean, I did want to do whatever, where were we? Was it when we were talking about the elemental planes, whatever place it is where people are like living on a volcano and it's like all the fancy people in their houses.
Yeah.
And we wanted to do a murder mystery.
We want to do a murder mystery.
Yes, yes.
This is how
That's
we get
how
to
the
murder
murderer,
mystery.
they self-murder, they set it up like a glass onion where it looks like they die, and then they have their body shuffled off, and then they commit other murders. It's the perfect crime.
Well, we can only play this with people who don't listen to this podcast.
That's okay.
Sorry, friends. Okay. Nice. Man, there's so many cool spells. And then half the time I'm just like, damage. So my next spell is also level 5. We had the same thought. Mine is called Flammable Fumes.
Oh.
I have not used this one, but it seems cool. So it is on the Arcane and Primal list. It is a 3-action cast, so it's kind of a prep. It might be a prep out of combat. It's 120 feet, 20-foot burst. It lasts for a minute. So what you do is you kind of conjure up a cloud of toxic gases that fill a 20-foot burst area. The gases are invisible. You need a perception check against your DC to even be able to see them. Though, once you walk into the cloud, it's a very foul smell, so you know you walked into something. So, a creature that enters the cloud takes 2d6 poison damage.
Okay.
Which
Yucky.
is, not great, not terrible. The kicker is after round 1, after the round you cast it, the gases lose stability and become flammable. So if an open flame is brought into the cloud detonates and deals 10d6 damage to all creatures within it.
Oh.
And the spell ends.
Yikes.
So my thought for this one would be kind of going back to that dungeon crawl-ish. This would be a really good laid trap where you put the gas there, you have everybody, you make noise or try to alert some guards, they run down the hall, run into the gas, take a little bit of minor damage, you chuck a torch in there and just blow them all up, and then start combat.
Combo with your gravity well.
Ooh, yeah.
One person casts the gas, one person gravity wells everyone into the gas, and then Ranger shoots a flaming arrow into the
Oh, that would be the coolest thing ever. Dang, that would be awesome.
We're just coming up with so many good ideas.
That would
today,
take
guys.
so much coordination.
It really would.
That's the problem.
I feel like there's some level of, it would be cool to have like just a couple, like 2 or 3 spellcasters in a party, just like plan all of their spells around each other.
Oh my gosh.
Or stuff. Like, I feel like there's the level of checkers is picking all your own stuff and then being like, we'll see what happens in the party. Chess is like, okay, how do we build this party in a way that makes sense? And like marshals kind of fighting together. And then you hit like 3D chess of like, how do all the spells work together with all what the marshals are doing and everything?
I feel like my biggest complaint whenever I play spellcasters and we have all this other stuff going on is if you do not go first in initiative, then inevitably all the melee people run into the middle right where you're like, well, now I can't do my area of effect spell, or I can't do... The dog is just like sneezing all over the place. This is fine.
If you can hear our dog sneezing, we apologize.
Yes, she's very cute, even when she sneezes. But anyway, like, it's just so hard to finagle all of that because you either have to have like a game plan ahead of time with the party of like, do not run into the middle where I'm going to put a poisonous gas cloud. Or it's like, all right, well, everybody's here and now I can just do like my pop shots from the back. But there's a lot of like trust that then other people have to have for you.
It's also just kind of a kick in the teeth as a spellcaster and the marshals. If you have a plan of like, okay, spellcaster go, like does their spell first. And you're like, roll initiative. I rolled a 2.
Yep.
And so it's
Right.
like, okay, spellcasters in the end, son of a gun. So then it's like, okay, do we all just defer until
Right.
the end? Or, yeah, so there's like a little bit of randomness in that timing.
Look, if
too.
the rogue took evasion, and this is from the Reddit, so I saw this. If the rogue took evasion, that's consent. They know what they signed up for. You can throw that fireball in there.
There's literally a cloak called the Backfire Mantle.
Oh, I had to take that in one of our campaigns because
I
I kept
gave-
getting hit with stuff.
No, I gave it to you guys in the campaign where our druid picked for it was his first character, and like at one point I looked at his character sheet and it was just like fireball. It's just all fireball, which is a valid strategy.
That's a totally valid strategy.
But at one point I like gave everybody a Backfire Mantle and they're like, "Oh, is this like fire resistance?" And it's like, "Yes, when your allies hit you." Gives you resistance against your allies' fire damage.
Well, I feel like the problem with that was, and the reason why I specifically took it was my character stealthed. So my character would like go invisible and then like try to run through. And then Tyler would be like, well, she's invisible, so you can't see where she is. So if you were gonna throw the fireball there, and then I would end up just like caught in like splash damage and all this other stuff. So it was just like, well, darn.
Yep, that's fine.
It's all right. We got there.
I
Next
love it.
spell.
Okay.
Next spell. We've talked about this one before, and I just love this spell.
Yes.
So, Tyler, I want you to tell the story of Inevitable Disaster. And to be quickly clear, Inevitable Disaster, it's on Divine and Occult. It's level 5. 60-foot range, target 1 creature, 2 actions. So, Tyler, tell
Oh,
us
man.
about what happened
This
with
is
Inevitable
like
Disaster.
one of my peak campaign sessions because it was me and another guy who was new. So it was his first campaign as a character, and like there was a session where only me and him were available. So there's
2-person sessions are
6
great.
of us, yeah. So we were trying to interrogate some people of the Whispering Way,
Mm-hmm.
which is the people who are all about Tarbafon and whatnot. And so we interrogate the first guy, and like he seems just kind of not into it, and
Yep.
so we like just fake hurt him, and then just kind of like knock him out and be like, he'll be fine later.
Yeah.
Like, nothing too big.
Yeah.
Next person, we like walk in. They heard the screams of the first guy, the fake screams, and that guy had no like qualms about being a Whispering Way, and he's like hated everybody, so we just killed the guy.
Yeah.
And the best part about this is we kept crit succeeding on all of our checks. So like he was a Laughing Shadow Magus who had like fear, and so he like the guy crit failed on his fear check. So
Mhm.
he's like bloody vampire type looking. I'm like old bard type guy. We're just doing our intimidation thing.
Well, Amric was like Van Helsing.
Yeah, he really was. So then we get to the last person, and we like he's gonna give us nothing, and then Ian crit succeeded on something, your guy crit failed on something, and then he just gave us all of the information. And so then as the last like I'm done, I cast Inevitable Disaster, and I'm like, Ryan, it's all you. And so I look at Ian, I'm like, okay, our job is done. And he's like, are you not going to kill the guy? I'm like, wait for it.
Yeah, and so at this point, they had been also like, there's a guard just like hanging out, and they'd been
Yeah.
like chummy with the guard, and
Yeah.
the guard's like, hey man, you guys are doing a great job. And he like asks the same question, like, oh, aren't you gonna like kill this guy? And then a carriage happened to blast through the wall of the prison and crushed this poor
With a bell.
with a bell. It like fell off and crushed this poor dude.
Yeah.
And the guard was like, oh, they're the most amazing vampire hunters I've ever seen.
It's just such a good spell that lets the GM just have fun with like how damage happens.
It's like not, I think it's gonna be tough to use in like active combat.
Yeah. Because it's
1d4 rounds later.
Yeah.
So I feel like for most combats, that's a risk you're probably not willing to take, that 4 rounds later something good might happen.
That's a spell you cast at the beginning. Like you
Yeah.
say
Sure, yeah.
you say 1d4 rounds, like you cast it and then start combat and then just see what happens.
And then it's 4 rounds and the combat ends at 2 rounds.
that-
2 rounds later.
That's a risk. That's true. Yeah.
Such a good spell.
Such a good spell.
Yeah, so what happens, like, if you cast it at the beginning, and then it's 3 rounds, but then you take out the person in 2, like, does something inevitably happen to their corpse?
So, I mean, I think rules as written, the spell just doesn't go off.
Yeah.
Rule of cool, a small quake or like a small rift opens in the earth and the body just drops into it. Or
Okay, that'd be funny.
Yeah, I think something...
A piano falls on it?
Yeah,
out of
something
nowhere?
random. Yeah, a catapult from outside the walls, like misfires and shoots a rock and it hits the body.
Yeah.
Like something I think happens thematically.
I think that would be funny, because then your spellcaster is like, see? I did it. It worked.
Did it.
Yeah, right as someone's looting the body.
Oh, no.
You loot the body and you're like, oh no.
Sorry, my bad, guys.
I feel like spells like that, and then there's the unexpected sharpshooter archetype that has their like peak feat called like Wave of Destruction or something. And basically, like, mechanically, you shoot somebody 30 feet away, and then you roll an attack against everybody, like, other enemies up to just, like, kind of an infinite amount 30 feet away from everybody else. So you'd be like 30, then 60, then 90, then whatever. And so you're just rolling your attacks. But flavorfully, what's happening is, like, oh, you shoot a lantern that starts a fire that does fire damage to the first
and
guy.
then that guy, like, drops his dagger and it falls on that guy's foot.
And then... like, that guy's scream bumps into a pillar, knocks down 2 houses, and then hits the 3rd guy. And it's just like a wave of destruction is happening.
I like that.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, you want to close us out with spell number 3?
All right. I am closing us out with my... I don't know if I want to call it my favorite spell, but it is definitely in my personal top 5 favorite things to use.
This is Tabletop Sam Guide's top spells.
The best spells to use in your new year. Anyway, all right. So the spell that I have chosen is Eclipse Burst.
Oh.
I know.
This is
my favorite.
Tyler as a GM's least favorite spells.
It's funny how that works. This is a spell level 7. It is on the Arcane, Divine, and Primal list, so 75% of people could use it. It is a 500-foot range and a 60-foot burst. It requires a saving throw when people are hit with it. So what happens is you throw out a globe of freezing darkness that explodes, dealing 8d10 cold damage and 8d4 negative damage to the living creatures in that 60-foot burst. The fun part about it is that when everybody makes those reflex saves, if they crit fail, they are also blinded. For an unlimited duration.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
So multiple times my character who has this spell has used it, and then Tyler's baddies have become blinded.
Every time she used it, we were running Fist of the Ruby Phoenix, and like it's hard to crit fail with the enemies, and every time I just managed to crit fail, so they'd be in the middle of combat, be like, well, this person is blinded forever, and like since we did, it was like tournament arc type stuff. Right. I was like, okay, well, they'll be blinded for combat and they'll be able to heal.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to just be straight up blinded, maiming people in the middle of a tournament. But yeah, every time, it's just like, she would cast it and then I would immediately crit fail. And it's like, you do a lot of damage and my character is just effed.
Cool. That fighter who like is a whole battlefield control trip thing? Nah.
Yeah. Well,
this was one where I did have to tell everybody in the party, like, I am going to cast this first, so I'm going to need everybody to stay the F in the back. Like, and for the most part, we were able to do it. I think I took, like, improved initiative and some other things to try to make it so that I wasn't last.
Yeah.
And for the most part, we were able to work that out. Because, yeah, that's another, I mean, it's a huge area.
Oh, yeah.
Like, just nuts.
It's a great spell.
Yes, I love it. And
Is it a great spell?
It is. Total control.
I'll start a people GMs personally victimized by Eclipse Burst support group.
I mostly just love it because it has gone so poorly for Tyler.
Every time. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that is our 7 spells.
Yeah.
We appreciate everybody listening. And with that, we'll talk to you guys next week.